Great day, great day. Welcome to another session with a quick pro tip from pro coach, and very excited to share with you another strategy that's going to help your business. Number one, specifically around keeping your negotiation simple. This is an overlooked concept that a lot of agents don't consider when it comes to the likelihood of being referred. Right, a lot of agents typically work against themselves and cause unnecessary friction in the experience of our clients by overlooking a simple concept around negotiations. And every real estate agent wants referrals. Every real estate agent thrives on referrals, right? It's one of the key sources to having a business based around longevity and not having to continue to be on that grind of new business, new business, new business. Referrals are that lifeblood that keep a real estate agent young in the business and, most importantly, profitable. And yet negotiations can be a part of the process that make it an experience that's hard to potentially come back from. And so, number one, when looking at this research here that shows the number of rounds of a negotiation and the client's enthusiasm, if you will, or experience, you can see here that with every round of negotiations, the excitement level of the client goes down. And this works for both buyers as well as sellers. And so when you consider just a simple process of doing your best to expedite the ability to get a deal accepted, or get out of that negotiation so you can go out and focus on the next one. Because every single time you put out an offer and things are continuing, you're thinking things might go through or not. That's just mental energy or emotional energy that a client is putting out there that may be unnecessary. And so you can find out a lot by just a few different simple steps that are going to help you cut down the amount of rounds of a negotiation, because a long drawn out negotiation creates stress, emotional stress, and also just maybe a lack of clarity. And what happens when you have a negotiation that goes sideways and you do that for a few different offers, potentially maybe if you're working with a buyer or even on the seller side and you're unable to put a transaction together, what happens to that potential client or the client that you have? Might you lose business or lose an opportunity because the client gets a sense of you're not a great negotiator? So one of the best things that we can do to ensure that we're staying ahead of this is, number one, communication, right? Communication with all parties, particularly the cooperating agent. So if you're a buyer's agent in this case, and you're reaching out to a listing agent about a potential offer, number one, before you even write the offer, have a conversation with the listing agent. I know in this market, it's not always easy to get a hold of, and yet it requires persistence. I couldn't tell you in my brokerage and also my personal team the amount of situations that we've seen on the seller listing side where a buyer's agent will make an offer without even having a conversation with the listing agent, calling, text, or email. No clarity on what's important to our seller, and that's a potential fatal flaw in terms of getting an offer accepted when you don't know what's important to the seller. Might you be causing your client to overpay because now you're just shooting with price, and yet terms are not being adhered to or considered when making an offer sweet for the seller? So that's something that you really got to consider: is, am I making sure that I'm coming from curiosity and calling that listing agent first, right? Or if you're on the seller side or listing side, calling that buyer's agent and getting to the, hey, here's what you offered. Can I review it with you for a second? Hey, what made you want to offer this price, these terms? Tell me about your buyer, and vice versa. That just simple method of communication will help clear up a whole lot of extra rounds of negotiation when we just have communication happen, right? And so a lot of times as a buyer's agent, you don't have to flex on price when you might find a situation where the seller is more determined about getting the property closed. And what assurances can you put in place, whether it be less time on physical inspections, whether it be less time on financing contingencies? Just what can you do to shore up other areas besides price that would make that seller feel confident that your offer is going to get closed and closed in a manner? I remember particularly we had a transaction on our team where a seller actually around the COVID timeframe, a seller was moving to out of the country, and there was multiple offers, and we know how hot that COVID market was. This client of ours decided to make an offer. One of the first things that we did was have a conversation with that listing agent to find out what's important to that seller. Come to find out, the seller just wanted to make sure, because it was a complicated move, because they were moving out of the country, that whomever that they were that was going to buy that home was able to offer extra time to allow them to get their things out, move. So they were looking for potentially a rent back situation. And so instead of the buyer now, with this new information, instead of the buyer having to flex solely on price, we were able to advise with this information in hand and not have to push on price, and yet offer some allocation towards time in a home after close to allow that seller to move out of state and get all their affairs in order to make that out of country move. So just by having that additional conversation, we were beat out multiple offers and get the client the home and make the seller happy, and everybody was on the same page. That's just a brief example of what we can do to make sure that we're creating clarity around finding out what's important to the buyer, what's important to the seller, and seeing what we can do to put things together. Now, the number one deterrent to making an exceptional experience through negotiations for our clients is ego, right? Agent ego. And so we see this a lot of times where you may have a cooperating agent in the picture, or maybe it's us. Maybe somebody said something that we didn't like, or an agent said something we didn't like, and we took offense to that. Or maybe on the other side, somebody took offense to something we might have said, or maybe that's just how that person may have shown up. And yet, what can you do to diffuse the situation? Because the more ego that's in a negotiation, the more costly it becomes for your clients. And that's something that we want to avoid. So I would just encourage you to think outside the box about how you can diffuse any potential issues with somebody that might be showing up with a little bit of ego in a transaction. So there you have it, just a quick little a strategy on how you can ensure that you keep negotiations simple and not have to go back and forth, and just literally simply pick up the phone and get to the heart of the matter. What's the motivation of that client? What's important to that seller? What's important to that buyer? And how can we help come to terms without having to flex solely on price, and make sure that it's a win-win-win all around, because we know what's important to the people at the table. All right. So with that being said, I trust you go out and make some more money with that, and see you on the next one.